Nearly one-third of the world's adult population, 1.8 billion people, don't move enough, and the cost of that collective stillness is projected to hit $300 billion in public health care spending over this decade alone. This is the science of physical consistency, why most people fail at it, and what the research actually says about building exercise habits that last. Let's start with a number you've probably heard before, 21 days. That's supposedly how long it takes to form a habit. You'll find it in motivational posters, Instagram captions, self-help books, and it is completely made up. The 21-day myth traces back to the 1960s when a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz noticed that his patients seemed to adjust to their new appearances in about 3 weeks. That casual observation somehow became gospel. As Colin Kammerer, a professor of behavioral economics at Caltech, puts it plainly, you may have heard that it takes about 21 days to form a habit, but that estimate was not based on any science. So what does the science actually say? In 2009, researcher Philippa Lally and her team at University College London ran a landmark study. They tracked people trying to adopt one of 3 simple daily behaviors: eating a piece of fruit with lunch, drinking a bottle of water with lunch, or running for 15 minutes before dinner. The results? Habits formed in a range of 18 to 254 days, with an average of about 66 days. And here's what's really interesting. Exercise habits took the longest to form. Eating healthier averaged 59 days. Drinking more water, 65 days. Exercising more, 91 days. Physical activity is, neurologically speaking, one of the hardest habits to build. And that difficulty shows up everywhere in the data. Roughly 50% of people who start an exercise program drop out within the first 6 months. The highest risk window is between weeks 6 and 10, with a second wave of dropouts around the 3-month mark. Approximately 67% of gym memberships go completely unused. Only about 18 to 20% of members attend regularly, meaning 3 or more times per week. The average gym sees a 30 to 40% annual dropout rate, and that number spikes in January and February when New Year's resolutions quietly dissolve. But here's the other side of that coin. Members who stay past the 2-year mark are 90% less likely to cancel. 90%. That tells you something profound about what happens when consistency reaches a certain threshold. The behavior stops being something you do and starts being something you are. This is exactly what behavior scientists describe in the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. People who maintain regular exercise for at least 6 months enter what's called the maintenance stage. At that point, the routine becomes part of your identity, and research from the British Journal of Health Psychology confirms that identity-based motivation, thinking of yourself as an exerciser rather than someone who's trying to exercise, is a stronger predictor of long-term adherence than any other psychological factor studied. James Clear, whose book Atomic Habits has sold over 30 million copies in more than 60 languages, captures this idea perfectly. He writes, "In theory, consistency is about being disciplined, determined, and unwavering. In practice, consistency is about being adaptable. Don't have much time, scale it down. Don't have much energy, do the easy version. Find different ways to show up depending on the circumstances." This is critical, because most people think consistency means perfection. It doesn't. Lally's research actually found that missing one day did not materially affect the habit formation process. One skipped workout doesn't reset the clock. What kills habits is the story we tell ourselves after the miss, the belief that because we broke the streak, the whole project is ruined. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening inside your brain when a habit forms. At the center of it all is a structure called the basal ganglia, which functions as your brain's autopilot system. Every habit follows what researchers call the habit loop. A cue triggers a routine, which delivers a reward. Over time, this loop becomes increasingly efficient. As Dr. Maksudul Shadat Akash described in a 2025 review, this transition from conscious to unconscious processing is the essence of habit formation. The neural pathways become increasingly efficient, requiring less energy and conscious attention with each repetition. And the benefits of physical consistency extend far beyond fitness. A February 2026 study published in Nature Communications tracked over 231,000 health professionals across 32 years. The findings were striking. Being physically active throughout middle adulthood was associated with a 10 to 28% lower incidence of major chronic diseases after age 60. And crucially, maintaining a consistent moderate volume of activity over time produced greater risk reduction than sporadic bursts of high-volume exercise mixed with periods of inactivity. Consistency beat intensity again. Meanwhile, neuroplasticity research from 2025 shows that regular exercise literally reshapes your brain. Resistance training enhanced cognitive control and memory performance by 12 to 18% in elderly individuals. Mind-body exercises like yoga and Tai Chi improved gray matter density in memory-related brain regions by 3 to 5%. Exercise elevates brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, in regions like the hippocampus, fostering the growth of new neurons and synaptic connections. So the question becomes practical. How do you actually build this consistency? First, use the 2-minute rule. Start so small it feels almost absurd. 1 minute of exercise isn't going to transform your health, but it establishes the habit. And habits snowball. Once you automatically perform 1 minute of daily movement, you will almost inevitably expand it into something more meaningful. As Clear says, you have to standardize before you optimize. Second, stack your habits. Instead of relying on time-based cues like, I'll exercise at 7 a.m., which require you to remember and decide, attach your new behavior to an existing one. After I pour my morning coffee, I do 10 push-ups. Your brain links the two behaviors neurologically, and the first action becomes an automatic trigger for the second. Third, design your environment. Place your running shoes by the door. Lay out workout clothes the night before. Research shows that environmental cues are often more powerful than willpower or motivation. Make the right behavior the easy behavior. Fourth, find what you actually enjoy. A statistical model analyzing exercise adherence found that the single strongest predictor of consistent attendance was enjoyment, not discipline, not guilt, and not external pressure. Enjoyment. People who liked their workouts were 84% more likely to keep showing up, and it doesn't hurt to add social accountability. Group fitness participants had a 56% higher retention rate than solo exercisers. There's even a creative strategy from a 2014 study where researchers gave people access to popular audiobooks, The Hunger Games and The Devil Wears Prada, that could only be listened to at the gym. Those participants went 51% more frequently than the control group. The researchers called it temptation bundling, pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. And finally, expect the plateau. James Clear calls it the plateau of latent potential, the gap between the effort you're putting in and the visible results you're getting. Progress builds underground, like bamboo spending years developing its root system before shooting skyward. Most people quit inside this window of invisible progress right before results would have appeared. The fix isn't to push harder, it's to stay consistent long enough for compounding to work. The data is clear. People who are insufficiently active face a 20 to 30% increased risk of death compared to those who move regularly. But this isn't really about mortality statistics. It's about the kind of life you build through thousands of small, unglamorous, repeated decisions. As James Clear writes, the only way to become excellent is to be endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over. You have to fall in love with boredom. Physical consistency isn't exciting. That's exactly why it works.